You're going to retire on $100 a month, not a typo. Let me show you exactly how the math works, because most people have no idea what they're actually sitting on. Compound interest is one of the most misunderstood tools in personal finance. People hear the phrase, nod like they get it, and then go right back to letting their money sit in a savings account, earning 0.01%. So today, we're going to break down exactly how $100 a month, invested consistently over time, becomes $200,000 or more, without any shortcuts, without any risk you can't stomach, and without a finance degree. Here's why this matters right now. Inflation doesn't sleep. Every year you're not growing your money, you're losing it. And the single most powerful tool to fight back is already available to you, whether you have $10 or $10,000 to start. The secret is time. And the math behind what time does to money is almost offensive in how powerful it is. Let's start with the basic mechanic. Compound interest means you earn returns not just on the money you put in, but on every dollar of growth you've already accumulated. It's interest on top of interest. A regular savings account does this, but at rates so low they're basically decorative. The real game happens when you put your money somewhere it can actually grow. Think index funds, ETFs, or a simple retirement account like a Roth IRA. Historically, the U.S. stock market has averaged somewhere around 7 to 10% annual returns after inflation. That's the number we'll use. At 7% annually, your $100 per month doesn't just become $1,200 a year. Each dollar you add earns a return, and then that return earns a return. And then that return's return earns a return. It stacks, it compounds, and the longer it runs, the more violent the growth gets. Here's what the actual timeline looks like. In year 5, you've put in $6,000 total. With compounding at 7%, you'd have around $7,200. Not mind-blowing yet, but you've already made over $1,000 for doing nothing after the initial deposit. In year 10, you've put in $12,000. Your balance is now around $17,400. You made $5,400 without lifting a finger. Year 15 is where people start paying attention. You've contributed $18,000 total. Your account is sitting at around $32,000. Nearly double what you put in. Year 20. This is when the math gets interesting. $24,000 contributed. Balance. Roughly $52,000. More than half of that money came from growth, not from your pocket. Year 25. $30,000 contributed. Balance. Around $81,000. The growth is now outpacing your contributions by a huge margin. Year 30. You've put in $36,000 over 3 decades. Your balance is approximately $122,000. And we're not done yet. Year 35 is where the number crosses $200,000. You've contributed $42,000 over 35 years. Your balance, roughly $186,000. Add a couple more years, and you clear $200,000 easily. You contributed less than $45,000 and ended up with more than 4 times that amount. That's not magic. That's just time doing what time does when money is compounding. Now here's the variable that most people overlook: the rate. 7% is conservative. Many index funds tracking the S&P 500 have historically returned closer to 9 or 10% on average over long periods. At 10%, that same $100 a month becomes over $400,000 in 35 years. Same deposit, same consistency, just a higher rate of return. This is why the choice of where you invest matters almost as much as the decision to invest at all. If your money is in a high-yield savings account at 4 or 5%, you'll still grow. In 35 years, you'd have around $95,000. Better than nothing. But compare that to 7% at $186,000, or 10% at over $400,000. The difference is enormous, and it all comes from one choice: where you put the money. Now let's talk about the acceleration principle, because this is the piece that makes early starters look like geniuses in hindsight. Say you start at 25 instead of 35. You're still putting in $100 a month. At 7%, by the time you're 60, you've been investing for 35 years. Balance, around $186,000. But if you started at 25 and ran all the way to 65, that's 40 years. Balance, over $262,000. You added 5 years of $100 deposits, which is $6,000 more out of your pocket, and your account grew by an extra $76,000. That extra $76,000 came from 5 years of letting the existing pile compound. That's the acceleration principle. The later years aren't just adding linearly. They're multiplying everything that came before. People who start at 35 instead of 25 and try to catch up by doubling their monthly contribution to $200 often still end up behind because they can't buy back those compounding years. Time is the one input you cannot purchase. This is also why the advice you hear about starting small is genuinely correct, not just a motivational platitude. Starting with $50 a month at 22 is mathematically better than starting with $150 a month at 32. The math doesn't care about your income bracket. It cares about how long the money has been running. Let's walk through the accounts where this actually happens. A Roth IRA is one of the most powerful vehicles for this strategy. You contribute after-tax dollars, and the growth is completely tax-free in retirement. In 2026, you can contribute up to $7,000 a year if you're under 50. That's about $583 a month. A $100 monthly contribution fits easily within that limit. A traditional 401k or IRA works similarly, but with pre-tax dollars, which lowers your taxable income now and taxes the withdrawal in retirement. If your employer matches contributions, that's essentially a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on part of your money before compounding even starts. A brokerage account is the most flexible option. No contribution limits, no age restrictions on withdrawal, no penalties for accessing the money early. The downside is that gains are taxable. But for people who want to build wealth outside of retirement accounts, a brokerage account invested in a low-cost index fund is a completely viable path. The index fund point is worth emphasizing. Actively managed funds charge higher fees and historically underperform simple index funds over long periods. A fee of 1% per year might sound tiny, but on a $100,000 balance, that's $1,000 a year. And those fees compound too, just working against you. Keeping fees under 0.2% is realistic with major index fund providers. There's one more concept that matters here, and it's the one that makes the difference between knowing this and actually building the $200,000. Automation. The people who actually hit these numbers are not the ones who remember to invest every month. They're the ones who set it up once and then forget about it. Automatic transfers from checking to